The Hustleshare podcast is sponsored by Lark, the leading super app for work in Southeast Asia. Frustrated with juggling and paying for multiple tools for work? Hate mixing personal and business messages? Improve your team's productivity by 10 times with Lark, which combines business chat, email, video conferencing, calendar, project management, real-time translation, and much more into one super app. Trusted by companies like Xiaomi, Glints, Kumu, and Mamaluz. Get it for free at larksuite.com today. This podcast is brought to you by Salmon, your trusted source for all your financial needs. Whether you're looking for easy financing with low down payments and fast approval, or seeking high returns with their 8.88% interest on time deposits, Salmon has you covered. Visit salmon.ph today and discover how they can help you achieve your financial goals. Rural Bank of Santa Rosa Laguna Incorporated is regulated by the BSP. For any concerns, email consumeraffairs@bsp.gov.ph. Deposits are insured by PDIC up to 500,000 pesos per depositor. And also by Uno Digital Bank, a full-spectrum digital bank licensed and regulated by the BSP. Manage your money and maximize its potential growth with a secure and trusted bank that fits right in your pocket. Open a savings or time deposit account, pay bills, shop with the Uno Virtual Debit MasterCard, or apply for a loan in the Uno mobile app today.
When we started building Invesko, we wanted to create a culturally relevant brand.
Yeah.
And dare I say that what we're trying to do is making it more into a cult kind of figure or cult brand. Some of the brands that I've been lucky to manage and to work for include Starbucks, Lululemon, just a lot of those that have a brand personality that's super well defined and a ton of followers behind them. And that's what we want. We don't want to just be a touch point where money is moving hands. You want it to be something, well-loved and iconic.
Welcome to Hustleshare, the podcast that features the daily grinds of unique hustlers around the world to show not our differences, but that our hustles are very much alike. Now here's your host, Ronster Betyong.
Welcome to this episode of the Hustleshare podcast. It's super nice to have these guys on the show because I've been watching them for a while. I've been bugging Paolo Campos. Like, hey, can you, and Raya Buensuceso. It's like, hey, can you introduce me to Michael real quick? Like, I've been seeing them in your portfolio for a while. And all of a sudden, boom, I see them on the news and it's like, all right, I think now is the perfect time. So I pinged Michael and he goes, all right, bet, let's do it. So without further ado, let's welcome to the show the co-founders of Invesko, Mr. Michael Bantigue and Walter Boo of Invesko.
Hey.
Whoop, whoop. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
All right.
Yeah,
so
it's been strategic in terms of not doing press and not doing any podcasts while we've been heads down. So now's a good time.
Nice, perfect. It's always about timing, right? You don't want to preempt anything that's not gonna give you the right momentum per se, or at least jump the gun, and then all of a sudden you fall flat or you have a false start.
Yeah.
But again, without further ado, I need to ask you the $1 million question. Guys, what's your hustle?
All right. So the hustle is our lovely investment company called Invesko.
Okay.
And the name is a portmanteau of investments and because of our roots in Philippine culture. The co-founders have been based in the Philippines, and we want to be all things investments.
There you go.
Once upon a time, we were really focused on stocks, but we recognized that the long-term plan is really to be all things wealth and to aim to beat the traditional means of generating interest and wealth, and we want to make sure that every product that we put in front of the customers at least beats inflation and gets you a decent return. Yeah.
That's good because again, it's been a long time since actually I don't know I've been exposed to like proper investment techniques and all that for the longest time, but I think we haven't really moved the needle as much. There's a lot more. There's a lot more awareness, but there's still a vast majority of people who don't even know how to invest or even thinking about investing in the Philippines, and we need to buck that trend because I mean it's funny. I'll just go on a tangent real quick. I was watching a couple of YouTube videos on how the Chinese invest, how the traditional Chinese invest. And apparently, culture-wise, they're really the way they it starts first with saving. Mm-hmm. That around 47 or 46% of whatever they earn, they save because they see that as something that's honorable. That's why they have these ang paos or they save and all that. Whereas the US, and I think it mirrors us as a culture, only save around 5% of whatever the income, or if they even save at all. And it's like, I look at it like, man, that's so true. I see it because apparently the Chinese have this thing called forgot what it's called, but they account for every dollar. Every dollar is pre-budgeted before it comes in. So you know where to do it. Mm-hmm. And man, I want to talk about investments because I'm pretty sure as a consumer country or consumer-driven country, everyone needs to snap it and actually wake up. But before I get carried away, I need you to buckle up real quick because we talk about investments and all these things. We need to understand your origin stories because we're going to have to ride the Hustleshare time machine. And we're all the way back. I'll start first with Walter because he's the youngest in the group. Okay, there you go, baby boy. So Walter, I want to understand your origin story, real quick because there's two of you guys. I'm looking at the how you started. What was your first exposure to hustling, and what were the first few hustles that you did?
Yeah, no, I actually so I'm from Singapore. That's for one. So the first thing. And then right after university, I just thought, I wanted to do something about startups. I didn't want to go like the traditional corporate path. It's just unexciting for me. So one of the first things I did was through Kaya Founders, this in the Philippines, right? So I said, yeah, why not? Let's give it a shot and let's go to a completely different place and see how it all works out. And yeah, just began the love affair with, abroad in the Philippines, like learning more about other cultures. And then after which, it's just one thing led to another. Mm-hmm. And right now I'm here with Invesko.
That's amazing. And again, I've seen similar paths like Keanu Brown, Jess DeMesa. No, but Jess, this is a veteran, but fresh out of school peeps who's like want to be in startups, did well, and then boom, you're great co-founder straight up. But I'll now go to Miko real quick. So origin story, Miko. I'm looking at this, and you're one of the IS peeps. What is in the water of IS? Real quick, that every time I look at the top, and I'm like, you guys figure it out. But what's the education in IS like? Because I've seen so many of y'all like Pal. Franco, Angelo Lee, Diego, So what's it there like there?
Well, I mean, I'm lucky to take a dream path for Filipinos, which is to grow up in the Philippines, go to international school with a couple of those folks. Pao is actually a childhood friend.
Wow.
And we've grown up through school together. We all went to the States also to kind of get our education in the East Coast. Mm-hmm. And I think, it was academically, it was challenging and pushed us to seek excellence as much as we can, mainly, hopefully global excellence. Mm-hmm. And I think from competing / collaborating with other people from all over the world in university to building my career first in New York and then moving to Hong Kong for another 10 years. I think that's really contributed to our insight and outlook for Invesko. I think number one, it's really how do we bring just the amazing applications like Robinhood or interactive brokers and the ease of accessing international assets to the Philippines when we moved back.
Right.
And so Paolo moved back to the Philippines a little earlier than I did.
Yep.
Paolo being one of the most influential in terms of nudging you to kind of get you to do certain things. He's like, Nico, come back to Manila.
Yep.
I want to look into this vertical of investing tech and wealth tech. And I think a common dream was born to build the Robinhood of the Philippines.
That's amazing.
A point about Walter is he's really hire number one for investment, like straight from the Kaya pipeline into the small group of people building Invesko. And I think it's a testament to just like hard work and commitment that he's where the founders are right now.
Absolutely. And again, rad props to you, Walter. Amazing job. All right. But I'll zero in real quick on you guys going to the States, because this is the telltale sign of people who really love the Philippines. Because I've talked about this so many times in the pod. I'm not trying to be binary here. But when Filipinos go abroad and they get an opportunity to like, all right, I'm out of this bullshit. I'm going to go out. There's usually two outcomes. Majority of the time, they get brain drain. They're like, I ain't coming back. I'm Filipino, but I ain't coming back. That problem is not going to be solved by me. Screw it. But there's you guys who are virtuous who comes back and, get enough exposure, global experience, whatever, and you come back. The sea turtle route. Pao did it. You did it. And there's a lot who are leading the best startups now in the Philippines, whether through education or through work. They want to be involved in solving the problems by creating startups. For you, what was the biggest aha moment? You mentioned Robinhood, you working there and studying in Penn. What was that pull? Because if Paolo was influencing you, I'm pretty sure that also had something in you to like, hey, right, Paolo just technically just nudged that internal feeling anyway. But you were just meant to come back. What was that like?
That's a great question. I think you get a taste for what they call the best of the best. And New York is a great city, in terms of tech and startup, second to San Francisco. Mm-hmm. But even someone gets bored of that because I was seeking the frenetic energy of Southeast Asia or Asia. So 10 years into my career in New York, CEO of the company I was working with at the time asked me to go to Asia, take my pick of Shanghai, Singapore, and Hong Kong. Okay. At that time, when I moved back, Hong Kong was energetic. It was, growing and so forth. So I landed in Hong Kong. 10 years after Hong Kong, I think even that gets a little bit old because... And I hate to get geeky about this, but I tend to look at growth rates almost, right? Like in terms of overall economic growth rate, and look to somewhere like the Philippines or look to Indonesia, you just have these astronomical growth rates in terms of overall GDP, income brackets just becoming more and more, middle income. And so just the opportunity, I think, is the same thing that brought Walter here. It's just, imagine looking to the States for opportunity and then looking back to the Philippines and seeing that as the land of opportunity. So that's a weird kind of inversion for people who go to the States and searching for that place of opportunity. But there's so much creativity that can take place in a market in a country like the Philippines. The rules are a little bit less written. Mm-hmm. The victors are not necessarily pronounced and there yet. And it's buzzing. When I came back 3 years ago, Paolo was just building Kaya, and look at venture now in the Philippines. It's just a different place.
Exactly. Now, last question before I jump back to Walter, real quick. I'm looking at your LinkedIn, and you spent a good chunk of your time again going from New York all the way back to Southeast Asia, but you were in the advertising side of business.
That's me,
right?
Yeah.
I want to understand the skill stack, because again, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. this is one of the most cutthroat and stressful areas of if any career that you're gonna have to go through. It's gonna literally chew you up and spit you out alive if you don't, if you don't hustle enough, if you don't survive it. But what was the skills you developed during, again, your stays in BBDO and Publicis, Saatchi and Saatchi, and the like?
It all comes down to brand building. And the way I see it, fintech people, even startup people, spend not enough time on the building of the brand and maybe way too much time on, say, the tech and or product, right? So I think it needs to be balanced. When we started building Invesko, we wanted to create a culturally relevant brand.
Yeah.
And dare I say that what we're trying to do is making it more into a cult kind of figure or cult brand. Some of the brands that I've been lucky to manage and to work for include Starbucks, Lululemon, just a lot of those that have a brand personality that's super well defined and a ton of followers behind them. And that's what we want. We don't want to just be a touch point where money is moving hands. You want it to be something, well loved and iconic and so forth. So I'm glad I went through that because we balanced our discussions around tech and product with building brand, tonality, personality, language, visual, everything in terms of managing all of the touch points.
That's amazing, and that's an amazing superpower to have because, again, in the game of startups, it's all about customer acquisition, and the cheapest you're gonna have to acquire customers. If you have a great brand, it kind of speaks for itself. We
can talk about that even more because customer acquisition is, like you said, in the B2C game, it's make or break, and we're having a good few months in that sense.
Exactly. Again, because you knew how to build brands. That again, there's this the key word is brand love. When that loyalty comes in, the same way Nike is etched into my ethos. Like once I see that swoosh, it gives me an emotional feeling right away as we go. But again, I'll jump back into Walter before we take our first break. So Walter, you're employee number one. Again, I want to understand a couple things. What influenced you to jump right into startups? Because it takes a lot of bravado to actually go from school to go to startups. And that's very, very contrarian in terms of because most kids are like, I'm right, chill out, I'll do a rest year, see what's out there. But you had conviction early on. Where did that come from? And then once you got into being employee number one in Invesko, what was that like?
Yeah, no, I'll start with the first question. Why startups? And actually, I mean, you say it's contrarian, and it's probably true. I mean, like if you look at the majority of people from where I'm from in Singapore, there's like a preset path. Like as with I think most Asian countries, you would get out of university and then just go find a good corporate job, right? Be like a doctor or a lawyer, and for me, it was a bit different because the school I went to. So I went to Yale and US College, which is actually a tie between Yale University in the States, right, and Singapore and US, and it was really this confluence, I think, of this ideas from the West to it, which is when we talk about liberal arts education from the States, and we're bringing it here with really mixed in with like the culture of the East as well, right? And we, as a college, it's always like in Asia, but for the world, have this like global perspective. And so I felt, really at home just with startups, even though it's something different and it's not what the people traditionally do. I actually find it exciting and rewarding. Yeah.
Right.
And to that second question, I mean, what was it like after joining Invesko? Actually, when I was looking at Kaya Founders, and it was a different name back then, like the whole project of having this consumer focused trading app, right? But I knew from the beginning, like that was there was a form we were supposed to fill in.
Right.
And I ticked the box. I want to work with this company because, I really believed in that vision. I'm a retail investor myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I tend to do it on a desktop. And you got to click really complicated things. Mm-hmm. So modernizing the UI, making it intuitive, it is something that I really believe will help kickstart the next generation of investors, getting people to get started just easily with the dollar. So yeah, that really was how it started for me.
Okay, last question before we take our first break. When you saw Walter, employee number one, again, in a startup, right? And I've seen this time and again with the best startups here. Your goal is to create the Avengers as much as you can, right? And majority of the Avengers have some experience already. Well, what did you see in Walter, Miko, that you see like, all right, this is just a diamond. Actually, no, not even a diamond in the rough. Probably a diamond already, which is rare. That you'd want to get him. And all the way, I mean, obviously now he's the COO, but coming employee number one, usually, and I see this a lot in the Philippines, there's a massive learning curve. You're going to have to go through a lot of growing pains. My COO now, my co-founder, was my intern, but it took a 10-year stretch before she was ready. I'd say 8 years, but officially now she's my co-founder and COO. But I've also seen her go through so many growing pains, but every single time she plowed through. And I couldn't be proud of her. So shout out to you, Ivy Barnechea, if you're listening. I'm pretty sure you don't. But Walter was such a short path to get there. And you probably saw something from day one. What was that?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And it's probably the first time I'm telling Walter this. Mm-hmm. So it's good for him to hear. I think one, it has to start off with sheer intelligence.
Of course.
Because I don't have any experience to base things on. Mm-hmm. And so I think Walter is able to just, it's kind of the horsepower that a lot of tech and industry people say, just that ability to crunch information and data and output it into a plan of attack that makes logical sense, has creativity with it, and as a founder and CEO, I'm understanding it and ready to kind of like act on it. So there's definitely that sheer firepower and machinery behind kind of like the intelligence. But to pair that, it's exactly what you said, Ron, in regards to your COO. Even though it's only been 2 years, mm-hmm. We've been through a lifetime already in terms of some of the near failures, near blow-ups that we've had in this course. And, he's just been right straight on the line through it. Like, give me more. Like, let's get through this problem together. So that's always, it's just owner mentality. I know there's like this meme around founder mode at the moment, but it truly is just kind of like he was an employee, but he's also acting like a founder. And that's what we needed to see.
And that's rare. I always look at it like the ones that stick around, ownership and accountability and all those things. You can't teach it. It's either you have it or you don't.
No, that's why it's really hard to hire fast. There's a lot of encouragement, whether it's from venture or elsewhere, to just stack your board, stack your executive. So you have cash and money, but we have kept things pretty small at 10 people.
Wow.
We'd prefer, to be, not to be glib about it, I'd rather pay a small group of people more and have that accountability and responsibility than divvy up both the responsibility and the rewards to more people.
No, totally true. And then that you also, because a lot of startups here, before we take our first break, I'm going to keep on going tangents here. But I learned this from, and it's totally true. In Southeast Asia, let's just say you raise $500,000. $500,000 in the US, you're probably going to be able to hire a couple of engineers and yourself. That's it for your runway. So you're forced to be nimble and very, very agile. $500,000 here in Southeast Asia, it's a lot of money. And you can actually hire a sizable team. So you're forced to become a manager right away. And if you go into that stacking mode, all of a sudden you realize, oh my God, I have a 20-man team. I've never managed a 20-man team. You're forced to become a manager and forced to go through the bullshit of having to manage a 20-man team, and you don't know how to cut the cords whenever you need to. So now you're stuck with a high payroll, and you're not nimble, you slow down, and that's the beginning of the end. Yeah. So that's it. All right, now let's take our first break, and when we come back, we will now talk about how you guys put up Invesko, and of course, what were those near-death experiences that you talk about, and what did you learn, and how did you pivot to where you guys are now? Let's talk about that more after the break.
Hey hustlers, money issues and financial stress are a reality we all face, and ignoring them won't make them disappear. That's why our sponsor, Salmon, is committed to making managing your finances easy and more accessible. With Salmon financing, you can shop to over 2,000 Salmon partner stores nationwide and bring home your dream purchases today with a low down payment starting at just 10%. Plus, it's super easy to apply. Just one valid ID is needed and you can get approved right then and there. No need to wait for payday. Just take what you need now and pay for it over time. And if you're someone that's looking for ways to grow your money, Salmon's time deposit accounts at the Rural Bank of Santa Rosa, Laguna, which is regulated by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, offers a fantastic 8.88% interest rate for a 12-month term for deposits of more than 500,000 pesos. That's currently the highest rate in the Philippines. Deposits are also insured by the PDIC with up to 500,000 pesos per depositor, so you know your money is safe and secure. It's definitely a great way to make your money work harder for you effortlessly. Since launching in 2022, Salmon has raised over $60 million and is backed by industry giants like the IFC, ADQ, and Northstar Group, ensuring they're a reliable partner in your financial journey. So whether you need financing, credit, or high-return savings option, Salmon has you covered. So visit salmon.ph today to see how they can help you achieve your financial goals with ease. Again, that's salmon.ph. Finance made easy with Salmon.
And we're back in the break. We are still with Walter and Miko, who then told us their origin stories respectively, and how, again, gave us a glimpse of how their dynamics were in creating Invesko. So I'll just go first with Miko. All right. So you got here. Paolo was playing the Inception mode again. I wonder how many people did Paolo put Inception on to go back from overseas. Oh, man. It's like, hey, so let's solve this problem, bro, and whatnot. Yeah. I kind of have an idea who they are because I play basketball with them every week. In the Kaya basketball thing, you've been budoled by Paolo to come back and solve problems here, whether through whatever. But yeah, it's just a superpower indeed. But you got here, and you now are. You know, this is such a big problem, and I don't think it takes one company to solve it. This is going to be a cultural revolution of some sort. But why this problem, and what were the very first steps you guys did, Miko, to trying to tackle this?
Yeah, so I think this problem came about from 2020, so COVID period. We see a huge interest in GME, and you see Robinhood kind of blowing up at the same time. And I was watching that phenomenon very closely because for a number of reasons. One is life was pretty difficult in Hong Kong at the time. I had a business. Things were not customers were not coming through the doors because of COVID. And so I needed to look at other means to provide. And so I got into investing at the time. So Walter and I are true retail investors in that sense. As every investor, you kind of go through your early days of good returns and you're like, I can do this. And so I launched myself fully into retail trader mode, just learning all the bells and whistles and the different strategies. I moved my family to the Philippines. And the landscape here in terms of accessing global stocks, being able to trade intuitively and on your phone, sadly, is lacking.
Did not exist.
And, Walter and I are both on Interactive Brokers, amazing pro company. But even myself, it's not the easiest platform to master.
Correct.
And so just looking at the different platforms out there, whether it's Robinhood, Webull, Futu, Tiger, and we're thinking, why not us? right? Why are we not able to build and bring this ease of access to global assets, ability to sign up as quickly and easily as what we've been able to experience, and build that ourselves? So I think that's where it really started. It's kind of like, how do we bring this ease of entry into the market participation, to a country where there's only 1.5% of the Filipinos out of 100 million or so who actually have stocks.
Yep.
And Ron, something that you said earlier before the show resonates. It's sadly in the Philippines, the culture of owning stocks or wealth creating assets is so low.
Yeah.
When I look at a chart, it's like Singapore and Malaysia have this culture of owning stocks in gold, for example, in terms of assets that appreciate. Whereas for the Philippines, it's either you have your money in cash, you have it in some traditional insurance-based investment asset class, and then you go the polar opposite into crypto because of its ease of sign up, ability to purchase $1 of crypto at a time, and potential gains, So you have this gap between like super safe, non-growing assets versus like highly speculative asset classes and nothing in between. So we just saw a big opportunity there to bring the fun and the ease of what Filipinos love about crypto and putting it into something regulated like securities. Yeah,
that's amazing. So that's the origin story. Amazing. So now, when you saw that gap and there's an in-between chasm that you're trying to build over safe bets and again the wild west that is crypto, right? And the rug pulls that happen in between there. But I mean, look at them now. I mean, I'm looking at 10 years of crypto. Before it was all just called crypto, but now there's safe coins. Or stable coins, stable coins that don't fluctuate as much. But okay, you see this opportunity. What were the first steps you guys did, Miko? Was it the Walter move? And what was that like?
Well, I mean, we were building right around the same time. Walter didn't come in at a time when product was already built. The way Kaya and Pao operate, it's very much building together. And so we were able to really leverage the Kaya partnership in terms of some early engineers, some early research into what can be done. Historically, there was a very much of an interest in really doing Robinhood for Philippine stocks, Ron. One of the early pivots that we did upon coming in, both Walter and I, was to look at global and US stocks as essentially the wedge that we can build to create interest in securities that we can then extend outwards. Because at the end of the day, as you've already seen, Filipinos tend to look to the US anyway for culture, for brands. And we thought that US stocks like Apple, Amazon, all that will resonate a lot. And there's a need for it. So early days pivot into US, which brought us into where we are today. And where we are today is finally at a place where we can get into Philippine stocks. So we're full circle.
Perfect. But again, you mentioned that those are the moves that got you there, but you stumbled several times along the way.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Now, Walter, let's talk about the hard stuff, the real stuff. Because people always say like, wow, okay, they've raised 1.6 million. They must have been great. And everything was smooth sailing. Hell nah. So what was that? What were the first few stumbling blocks that you guys had to overcome product-wise, or that you remember, and how did you guys solve that?
I mean, product-wise, from the early days, there just wasn't a model for us to like build on. We had no there was no like customer in mind we're building for. We do need to get our first few customers. So the initial part of that was really just about experimenting and trying out different forms of marketing on Instagram, which is something we picked up early on because that's where the Gen Zs are at. And then there's also the actual product itself, right? You've got all the bells and whistles of trading, and how do we condense that to something that's easily understandable for somebody who has never invested before.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're asking me this question, even right now, we don't have the full answers to that. We're still always iterating and finding out what customers want. So that there's this whole feedback loop that we're building, and hopefully it works out, or we get it right. I remember a couple of features that we launched, and eventually, we kind of discontinue, right, on the app. And we hope not to get into so much of, this going back and forth, but sometimes it's just important before we truly understand or get product market fit, which is where we are right now. So that's a lot of resources in there that if we were to do it again, probably, we would get it much more streamlined.
Walter's really playing it safe with some of the near failures.
what was the real how bad did it get, and what were the real hurdles then, Miko?
Well, I mean, for us, it really comes down to two things. There's nothing more cut through to what your company is going through than when you're interacting with customers. And Walter and I interact with our customers daily. We love that everything comes down to two questions, Ron, when people are chatting to us on Instagram or Meta. Number one, are you legit? Favorite question of Filipinos. Are you legit? Are you a scam? And so that's definitely one of the major problems we have to build for. And that's a hint at kind of some of the biggest barriers that we've faced. I'll get back to that.
Yep.
Number two is, how do I get started? And that comes back to just how young and new the customers that we're appealing to are. And in our industry, I'll start with two first, because number one, super fun and complex and sensitive. But in terms of building for that customer, like I love Gcash and what they're doing with G Stocks and Dragonfly and what they're doing. But I think I think a lot of people are still doing the Field of Dreams method with brokerages, which is like, you build a stocks platform and they will come. They won't. There is so much hesitation to get from like sign up to putting your money into a platform to then getting them to make their first trade, especially if they're young, never having invested before, or don't have a lot of money. And so we've seen months at a time where trading is very tepid, two trades per month, flat growth. Where we've really built on that is, how do we get the customer to go from signing up to topping up for the first time, topping up to trading for the first time? And thankfully, we've used a lot of behavioral nudges, a lot of gamification to get over that hurdle period. So one of the big hurdles is like lack of usage. How do you get 18 to 20-year-old to park with just 100 pesos for the first time on an app that they don't know, in an industry and a category like investing, which they don't feel confident in? So that's number one. Number two, the first one is, are you a scam? And that's a difficult one for an owner as well, because you're like, you want to scream and say, I'm not a scam. Trust me. You can't do that. And so as a company, Ron, the biggest challenges have been compliance and regulatory.
Especially in fintech.
Exactly. And as CEO, I've actually been, a lot of my time is being CCO, Chief Compliance Officer.
Yep.
I love the role because I think it's one of the most creative roles in a company like ours, because regulatory can make or break or be your moat.
Correct.
And so there have been times in our progress run where regulatory and compliance have been challenges that could have kind of broken our progress. And hence our job is to nullify some of those threats. So we've made a lot of steps to really be the legit platform that we can tell our customers, inclusive of, number one, we have our registered broker partners in both the US and the Philippines.
Nice.
Number two, we have a minority stake in a local broker dealer now, which allows us to have dialogue with the SEC and to really say, hey, we're serious about doing business in the Philippines. And also, I think taking all of our learnings from US stocks and bringing them to the Philippines for adding liquidity.
Nice.
We know that the PSC is hungry for new users and to acquire new users. And we hope that we can take some of the learnings that we have talking to young people and try to introduce young people to the market. Yeah.
That's amazing. Now, Walter, I want to ask you, you guys went through this limbo, and every single startup goes through this on the quest to go for PMF or product market fit, right? What were the most important iterations that you had to do that broke that cycle of limbo? Like, oops, false start. Just this is the most taxing and is the most disheartening process, because there's going to be a lot of triggers of false hope. Like, oh my God, and boom, fall flat again, right? What were the iterations that you did, and how did you measure that? Okay, we finally have it. There's a real product market fit here.
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's so much to that, because it's not just about, putting, of course there's A/B testing, and we can show a certain customer, how our app looks like, the UI. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it's a holistic journey. So we look at the customer journey from the very beginning, and that's when they sign up on the app. If they sign up, and for a fintech like us, it's not as if you sign up, you would be able to trade right away, because there are lots of regulations. You have to submit what we call KYC, and know your customer. Yep. So there's a lot of documents to collect, and after which you would then need to make a deposit. If you actually manage to get your account verified, you will make a deposit, and then after which you would then start to trade. So at every single point of the customer journey, we're always looking at why is this customer not going to the next step? What is the reason for dropping off here? Okay. So that's how we iterate our product, and we build around how can we make it better for you? And specifically, how can we make the app better such that you don't drop off here? And sometimes it's just an issue of, I don't have the right docs at this time. Mm-hmm. Maybe I do have the documents required. I just need to prepare them. Yep. So what we do is to nudge them. So we have a whole backend software right now that sends out automated emails to people telling them, you haven't submitted documents. Yep. Please submit it. I mean, if you need help, just let us know. So that's one of the the few things we've done. And of course, on the app itself, if you perhaps already verify your account and you're still hesitating, should I deposit it? What if my money is lost? So reducing minimums is something we did. I think we started out as, you have to deposit something like $20, right now. You can deposit for as low as $2. And in fact, we give you cash back on top of that, 50% of that, just to get you started. So that's how we reduce drop off there. And of course, the final part, if you start trading, you don't know which stock to buy. We send you a free stock in the beginning, just to, and I'm so excited about this thing, because it's like, it's a fun thing. You have like different scratch cards. You can randomly, you get a stock, and then, it's like a gift for you that, you will always remember, because this is like the first stock you have.
Right.
It's, I don't know, getting your first paycheck, right? It's getting your first. And then from there, you start to think about, what other stocks should I buy? And we have a whole list now of different expert ratings that we've added just recently, actually, to let our users understand that, okay, this is what the Wall Street experts are thinking, that this is a buy, this is a sell, and so on.
Right.
And we even have a community now on Discord that we're actually, I'm actually talking to these customers on a daily basis, getting them engaged. And some of them are giving us, feature requests, like direct feedback from the customer. That's the best thing that we can get, honestly. Yeah.
I just want to add on to that, maybe a few shout outs. I think number one, like one of our angel investors, Ron Hose.
Shout out.
Yeah, had
the real Ron in the startup. That's why I go by Ronster, because when you say Ron, like, nope, that's not me.
Ron Hose helped us kind of think about how to get kind of that first deposit in and really reducing that barrier to that first deposit, which really is the first barrier to trading, since once you deposit, your money's there and you're ready to trade. So Ron's been instrumental in helping us also think about conversion rates and how he did it at Coins and how we could do it here. I think Yelmer on the Foxmont side has been an amazing operator partner as well. And one of the nudges that he told us, among many, is like, we've got our in-app feedback mechanism now that has really been awesome at generating real-time feedback, reducing some of the negative feedback that we're getting, because we get like instant relief of that emotional kind of response.
Correct.
And it's helping us iterate a lot faster. So it's great having these people among our investors who do feed us some of these insights that we're able to add to the platform as well.
All right, that's amazing. Now, okay, I have a team question. So obviously, Walter is a super hero right here, but you guys can't do this alone. It's just a 1-2 punch, right? You mentioned there's a team of 10, but who are the next few people you also surround yourself with in order to just iterate fast? Because you cannot do it alone. Yes, being small helps.
Yeah,
but being a two-man team, eventually you're gonna have to add a few more superheroes in the team. Who were those, and what were their great contributions to this whole mix?
Yeah. I think, our CTO is amazing. Joseph Pizza, ex-Expedoc, ex-Metromart.
Wow.
And has the same just founder mentality. And he's like 80% hacker, 20% manager, and he doesn't really like the manager side. And I'm glad about that. It's just, and I think that resonates to his team of kind of pirate engineers as well, who get shit done without the whole, drama and process around that. So shout out to Joseph for being really our day one CTO and continues to do so. I think it tends to be the three of us driving every day. I think our PM also has that same perspective. So right now we're like, 3 C-level, 3 engineers, 1 UX, 1 CS, and am I missing any and a PM? So it's and QA, and it's very small. Yeah,
sounds good. And I look at that roster and I don't see any marketers, because obviously you are the superhero there. So I want to understand now how you guys acquired users, because again, that's also one part of the limbo. One of the biggest mistakes that you can do is you build a product that nobody wants to do. And you've been able, and all this team that you built will not make sense if you just over-engineer some stuff without, making it break in front of users. How did you acquire the users, and how did you get from? Because you guys were called something differently. And again, why the change to the name Invesko?
Great, that question. Great observation. There is no marketer, because we've tried consultants out and also in-house marketers, and we realized, Ron, that customer acquisition and brand is so important that we almost had to take it as owners and ensure that feedback loop of like business objective to marketing to customer acquisition is super tight. Yeah. So Walter and I tend to drive the creative and the media side together. So that's one of that. I'll let Walter answer the second part, but the way for us, customer acquisition includes, number one, making sure that the brand is in-house. Like, one of the first things that I notice is the content and the voice that's coming out of a brand. And you can immediately notice when you like farm that out to a third party who is doing kind of like, generic content out there. And one of the first things we wanted to do was take that in-house, create our own KOLs, create our own content types, really manage our feed and the paid advertising that we put out there. And that's helped us really have a unique voice and really be pretty targeted to who we're talking to, which is mainly Gen Z customers. Yep. And then Walter is really operationalizing that from a media optimization point of view. And the funny thing is that Walter has zero like life or previous experience doing that. And that's what I mean about just being like hunkering down, taking all that data and just churning it out. So I think Walter can speak to the optimization bit.
How do you guys optimize? Because again, this is when you generate enough first traffic, obviously, if you're lucky, then you figured out that, oh my God, they actually did the whole flow. But that happens like 1 in a million. There will be drop-offs, and then these drop-offs is where you're going to have to see where they drop off and how you optimize to get them further down the funnel. What were the optimizations you guys did?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully it's not 1 in a million. We're doing better than that. So
that's why you guys did have product market fit. There you go.
Yeah, so I mean, and of course we're always looking to see how we can do things better and optimize. And it's true, actually. I don't have any background in just this whole media and media buying, but as I told Miko before, it's kind of like investing, and you're really looking at how do you position your assets in this case it would be your creatives. So we have some videos, we have some static images, but it is a process of finding first who your customers are. Like if you're just randomly throwing these things out and it doesn't stick, you're just wasting money and nobody's converting or downloading your app, right? So we've really honed in on who our target set of customers are. Of course, we know they're Gen Z and they prefer certain types of content, video content that's interesting, engaging. So we feed them these things over our media channels. And over time, it just gets stronger because we know who these customers are. And it's a whole loop of finding more of these type of customers with the content that we're creating, going back to basics, which is just highlighting our value proposition. You can invest with as little as $1, right? And there's nothing really difficult about investing. It's just some basic concepts that you can start with, and that's how we're doing. That's how we're doing the media.
All right, now let's take our last break, and when we come back, we will now talk about how you guys did two amazing things. How did you guys know when you had product market fit? And of course, how do you guys raise $1.6 million? We'll talk about that more after the break.
Hey hustlers, wish there was an easy way to open a bank account and grow your money without the hassle of lengthy application process and income documents? Well, I got good news because today's sponsor, Uno Digital Bank, is here to help you achieve your financial goals. You can easily open an account with the Uno app in just 5 minutes and one valid ID. And as one of the 6 digital banks licensed by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, the company is committed to providing customers with simpler, better, and more accessible banking. Last year, Uno Bank was recognized by the Asia Banking and Finance Awards and bagged the title Open Banking Initiative of the Year due to the success of its partnership with GCash, one of the Philippines' leading mobile wallet platforms. And with the Uno mobile app, you can access an hashtag Uno Ready savings account and enjoy daily interest crediting. With their hashtag Uno Earn or hashtag Uno Boost time deposit accounts, you can enjoy a high interest rate of up to 6.5% per annum. Enjoy monthly payouts with hashtag Uno Earn and flexible tenors with hashtag Uno Boost. Other app features include pay bills, the Uno Virtual Debit MasterCard, life insurance, scan and pay with QRPH, and phones. And the one thing that I really love about Uno Digital Bank is they're open to collaborate with a lot of Filipino startups. I've had a chance to see the partnerships that they've had lined up with the startups that they have, and it's truly exciting to see how a digital bank like Uno can enable startups to unlock the power of fintech through digital banking. So if you're ready to elevate your banking experience, download the Uno mobile app today from the Google Play Store or App Store. Or if you want to collaborate with them, I'll be happy to give you an intro. Just shoot us an email at hello@hustleshare.com. Hey hustlers, how many apps are you using at work these days? 5, 10, 20? Let's face it, there are chat apps for internal communication and emails for external, Cloud Drive for docs and wikis, calendars and video conferencing, spreadsheets and project management software, and probably yet another tool to connect them all. It is a mess. And if you're collaborating with cross-border colleagues, partners, or suppliers, it gets even more complicated. And don't you find it disruptive when your personal and business messages get mixed up? And if this sounds painfully familiar, switch to Lark, the leading super app for work designed to increase your team's productivity by 10x at an unbelievable fraction of the cost. With Lark, manage projects, chat with your team, build a knowledge base with wikis, and automate workflows such as approvals without code effortlessly from one app. No switching or integration needed. Join fast-growing companies in over 125 countries, including Xiaomi, Glintz, and the Philippines' very own Kumu and Mamalu's, who trust Lark as their workplace super app. I've started using Lark myself for our pressure washing business service, Pop-Up Pressure, and I'm totally loving it. Want to see how Lark can revolutionize your business? Click the link in the description or download Lark for free at larksuite.com. That's larksuite.com, the productivity super app every business needs.
And we're back from the break. We are still with Miko and Walter, who then told us the amazing journey of how they got over the stumbling blocks, how they iterated fast and got to talk to users, which is the most important thing. I'm right in the thick of that right now because we're a part of the current cohort of Iterative. And they're literally Iterative is like the YC equivalent of Southeast Asia here. So we're the only Filipino company that's there. And man, they really get you out of your comfort zone week on week. And it's important because you the faster your loops are into talking to customers, pivoting or persevering and then building, the better you're going to be. So I want to understand, am I correct that you now have product market fit, or are you still in the process of it? Or what were that hockey stick? Because it usually is that sustaining growth. Where are you guys at?
Great question. I think just a short story of a investor that we were talking to earlier this week, and I love what he said. He said, I want to meet companies who are just at the beginning of that hockey stick growth because I want to get there before it's truly there.
Yes.
Super opportunistic for a pre-series A. But I'd say that's where we are. We're demonstrating consistent and repeatable exponential growth now for the last 3 months now. So we did the Backscoop article was released at a time when we acquired or when we grew around 20,000 users in about 2 or 3 months, if I'm not mistaken. Where now, given that time between that article and now, we're about 50,000 users. So
holy shit! That was just a few weeks ago.
It was, and that's kind of the growth rate where we're at. Of course, a percentage of that is who we call the verified user. So we tend to look at a couple of main KPIs. We've got the total users, who are people who can sign up to the platform. They can create a watch list. They can start getting into Tesla and stocks, but they're not going to be able to trade. You need to go through this Herculean task of KYC, which we're trying to simplify as much as possible to get them to trade. And, Walter and the team are absolutely responsible for getting that cost of customer acquisition down almost, more than half from even our better days. So it's wonderful there. And so the verified users, let's just say we've just exited that problem area where we were trying to grow at a exponential rate. We're now in a place where we're really focusing on our adoption and our usage numbers, which are thankfully trending in the same way. So instead of just vanity top line numbers, we're looking at how often are people trading, how much value are they trading, how much they're topping up, and other things like, are they referring other investors as well? So just to give you an example of that, we've just went from 2 trades per month to 4 trades per month to about 6 trades per month.
What?
Our benchmark was really at 5 trades per month, and we're happily beating that.
Nice.
And that's all going to be going towards the revenue aspect as well, which is going to be important for our pre-series A investors. We all want to see that we can generate revenue from trades. So we're just looking to ensure that the trades are sticky enough for people to be willing to part with trades as well for commissions. Yeah.
Sounds good. I love how you guys did it. But again, all of this growth when you see it, that's also the right time and the trigger to now acquire the resources to keep going. Now, again, I'm not sure. Is the funding winter over? Is it not? I think it's starting to get better. The buzz in the air is just a little bit different, but it's never gonna be 2021. Okay, we got a bit of a windfall off of that in P&A, and then we went through a long valley of death, almost so many near deaths month on month. But again, the tide has turned. Maybe I'm biased because we recently just raised a bit, but how did you guys raise the $1.6 million?
So the recent articles that you've been seeing was super strategic in terms of telling our growth story run.
Okay.
And we've been so heads down this year that we never ran press on the investment round. Yeah. So that investment was actually mid 2023.
Oh, you did it during the winter.
We did. Yeah, we did it right around the winter.
That was harder.
And so I think when we're starting to talk to investors now.
Okay.
And I do feel like there's a lot more optimism at the moment. But what that also means for us is that if we raised in mid 2023, we are gearing up for what we'll call a pre-Series A raise within the next 6 months.
Wow.
Which are tied to some of the growth metrics and forecasts that we've been discussing. So, I mean, the story behind raising that, I mean, that's a different story if you still want to hear it.
Mm-hmm. Of course, let's do it. Dude, you did it during, I thought you guys just did it now. You did it during the winter.
Yeah.
It was hard.
Yeah, no, of course, Paolo played a critical role in that. Kaya founders were first money in on the seed round. Okay. They were critical to introductions to Foxmont.
Of course.
And PNB Aura.
Yep. Shout out, David.
Yep. And, they've become just a great kind of board as well for us, informal board at the moment, formalized when we raise our next round. And that also led to 500 startups or 500 in Southeast Asia. So Martin Koo comes into the picture as well. Those three formed the biggest chunks or the main investors behind the 1.6.
Yeah.
And we had assembled a couple of, let's call it a group of people from ex-Binance Philippines, ex-Food Panda as well. So far, I think that whole process, what they say, it's like you need 100 meetings to get to, X number. We certainly went through the process of probably 100 different meetings. And yeah, we're now with 3 of the kind of largest and most supportive investors that we have.
And fundraising is all about sending signals. That's what I've learned, right? And that's why you cannot shit where you eat here in this ecosystem. Because if you have enough make enemies, and it's already hard enough to get one check out of those one guys. But if you send the right signal where people can back you, like for example, the way you got Kaya. Okay. What people don't understand is if you got as a founder, because I'm going to go deep into the dynamics of the startup ecosystem. People talk, founders talk, investors talk, right? But if you get into the wrong radar, if you get into labeled as someone doesn't deliver and just throw shit into the ecosystem, that will go around. The back channel is strong, right? But if you get one of these guys to really root for you, that's a good signal. But you guys got Foxmont, you got Franco, you got Pao, you get David, you get Martin. That's a super signal because it's incredibly hard for a local startup to raise external funding, especially if you're going to go regional. And if you look at your cap, and the regional investor would be like, "How come nobody's backed you locally?" That sends a weird signal everywhere. Like, why? What am I not seeing here? Why are the local guys not funding you? But if some, if not all, back you, that says a lot. that says that we are putting money not just on this product, but on this team, but also on this founder that they have figured out. Because what I also learned, bro, is simple. In a fund's life cycle, the easiest checks for you to get is probably when the fund is pretty nascent, because the processes are not that complex yet. There's not analysts yet and all these things, blah blah blah. But as a fund matures, especially if they raise their fund too, man, it becomes so much more difficult to get a check. And once that complexity works against your favor, and you're not able to unlock these things, you're gonna have a hard time. But you guys have been able to do that. What are the fundraising tips that you are gonna be able to give to those people? Because a lot of, if not all, a lot of startups are actually fundraising.
Yeah.
But not a lot of them. I meet so many founders sometimes who's asking me for advice, like, Ron, how do I get the first check from Paolo or the freaking Franco? I'm like, dude, it's an art and a science combined.
Yeah.
What's your tips?
Just to double click into one of your first points, Fox One's probably one of the most mature ones in the Philippine market right now. And I think that's helped us a lot, because they're one of the, Yelmer and Franco are one of the most positive, rigorous, challenging to us in terms of our own metrics, in terms of our own KPIs. So it's definitely hardening us into what needs to be done for the next round. So appreciate that. In terms of tips, I'd say I haven't thought of it before, so I'll speak kind of top of my head. Networking. Yes. It's just like, it's not a pretty thing to say, but in a lot of ways, it's getting yourself in front of the right people. Obviously, there's a lot of privilege in terms of prior relationships that you're able to leverage. If you've gone to similar schools, if you've gone to similar kind of networks. So if you're able to insert yourself into that network, then obviously that's a plus. I think Walter has been relatively new to Singapore, but I think one of the great things he's done is just got outside of the startup shell and really just go straight into the social aspects of VC and startup culture as well. Like, it's not even just the old school way of like, here's my name tag and let's network. It's like truly friendship and having a drink and having a laugh.
Basketball with Raya. Let him emasculate you. That's as he does every time.
I mean, things like that. We don't do the basketball thing. We do the yoga thing with some of these.
Okay.
That's we're the yoga faction.
I sign up for the weekly emasculation class of Raya Buntu in basketball. So he always busts my ass every time. There you go.
Network is one. I'd say, okay, the second one is it's something that Ron, you kind of alluded to. You've got to package yourself and your startup really well. Like, whether it's beyond deck design, it's really just like, if it doesn't look like you're enjoying pitching and delivering your communicating your passion or your thoughts, or even enjoying the conversation with the VC, it's probably, end of the day, it's a human connection game, right?
Correct.
Like, I'm still trying to make not even trying, but I'm creating a personal relationship with them. And when it comes to IC, I'm sure there's going to be the numbers and, they're not this, they're not that. But somewhere in the back of your head, you're going to say, I like the founder. I believe in what they're doing. I'd like to have a beer with them. Like, a lot of those personal things matter.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, I'd say for us who are fundraising, it's going to be a tighter grasp of the metrics and the KPIs. Something I didn't appreciate in the earlier round, especially as being very much pre-revenue, pre-product. We can only go off of our forecasts, but as we get more mature, it's even while you're building your startup, you got to get your metrics game sorted out, because you're going to end up using all of that for your pitches anyways. So just getting numeral and fluent with the numbers.
All right, sounds good. Sorry, and Walter, what's your 2 cents on this in this whole process? Because of course, fundraising it's a dance, right? And the scorecard that you guys put out obviously is going to be your metrics and your product. It's basically a pitch is just a summarization of what you guys do. But when somebody looks at under the hood and you look at your data room, your metrics, and if that's all out of whack, I don't care how good you pitched, that ship's never going to sail. What were the things that you guys did and to prep up to be ready for fundraising now?
Yeah, I mean, I really like what you said in the beginning about fundraising being like a bit of an art, a bit of a science, right? Because really we can have all the data out there, metrics, and we're constantly trying to improve and to show our investors that, hey, we're improving on these metrics. And then we do that as best we can. But really, I think when somebody's investing, they're not investing because of what we have, it's because of what we're going to do, right? And what we're going to do is that's the forecasting part. And of course, in order to convince them that this forecast is actually something that is credible, this is where our current metrics come in. Correct. So it's about getting to a reasonable range of where we're going to be in future. Then I think that's the really exciting part, and that's the part that really is dynamic about fundraising and creative, because the numbers are here. It's set in stone. It's here where you really want to tell a story of where you're going next.
Absolutely.
Yeah, storytelling is something that I think has become so important to what we're doing.
And you've been doing this forever, man. So you're in your agencia life. You've been doing this in multiple ways and passions. All right. Now, before I let you guys go, one last question. So again, there's been a bit of controversy in the startup PH ecosystem about Philams or AFAMs. I don't know if you know what AFAM is. Do you know what AFAM is, Walter? There you go. AFAM is a foreigner assigned in Manila. There you go. AFAM. Okay. That's what the locals call it. Didn't come from me. Okay. I'm just using names that are commonly out there. Obviously, I have my own thoughts about this. But what's your thoughts about some founders here or some entities in the Philippines not fully understanding the impact of sea turtles like you guys, or foreign founders coming in to solve problems and build product here? Because I come from the very dark ages of Startup PH, where I'm saying probably 80% of the founders were local on local. A lot of us failed. Very few got it. I'm lucky. I'm a repeat founder when I got my exit. My first startup failed. But I learned so much because of the perspective of other founders, especially global founders, to see things in a different light. And there's obviously a lot of luck that comes into play. But you guys have seen global excellence and global hustle. What's your 2 cents on this, considering that, obviously I think it's a boon to the ecosystem. Well, what's your perspective in you guys solving problems in the Philippines, where you could have just stayed somewhere else and actually did it there and then stayed nice there?
Yeah, well, I'll take that first. In terms of opportunities, I think this question of is it right or is it wrong? I think it's really not a moral question.
Nope.
It's really like an opportunistic question, and I think if let's take an example. I'm CEO, and I have an option to partner with or to hire 2 different individuals. Let's say Gabby, a friend of ours, Gabby Ayala, coming from Cash App, who's suddenly available to help me out. Am I going to say no to that because of some moral existential crisis around a Filipino, literally, who was born here, went abroad, came back, or somebody who is born here, has stayed here? From a purely fiduciary perspective, from a purely kind of I want to win perspective, I'm going to mine the information from the guy who can help me get as close to Cash App and what they've achieved in the States.
Totally
right?
agree.
It's purely opportunistic and instrumental. But that's not to say that there aren't ways of kind of localizing that, because even when we've studied Robinhood and Cash App, we recognize that we can't just lift and shift that.
Nope.
There are behaviors, interactions, and
nuances,
concerns and nuances that Filipinos face that you can't just lift and shift. And I think that's where there's an opportunity to mine the information and the experiences of people who are more adept at that culture, the culture here as well, right? So it's for me, it's a really moot, short-sighted question when you're just like, I just want the best. And I think it's to the benefit of the Filipinos to want the best.
Yep.
Out of ourselves, out of our economy, out of the government, like all I want is excellence and global excellence and local excellence. That's it.
And in order to be the best, you have to hang out with the best and work with the best.
As much as possible.
Iron sharpens iron, right? And that's why, as a Filipino founder, coming in as a local, you have to work doubly harder to raise your hand and put yourself in position to actually learn. Because if we're just gonna hang around, tell our own, it's important that we also kind of share our own thoughts and whatnot. But it's a small pond where you don't really get to see, and you're just like, in a circle singing Kumbaya. Nothing's gonna happen. You need outside perspective. So I'm kind of experiencing that right now. The Kumu boys are helping us build a new app. And oh my fucking God, I'm a student again. I am a student again. And I love it because it's humbling and you can just see the amount of excellence and then the great stuff that they've done now within your grasp.
Yeah.
I got to step up because this is now the level that I'm fucking with, right? I cannot just like dick around and be just old school P&A Ron. I got to step up. And that's the benefit of working with global talent.
Yeah.
And as a local, you don't be defeated. So be like, oh my God, I'm so inferior. Fuck that. Step up.
Some of our engineers are like, I love that mentality. They're pirates, and they're just not bogged down by the geographics. They're not bogged down by the geographics of it at all. It's like, I feel like I have international talent sitting here in the Philippines, but it's also because we just give them a lot of latitude to do their own thing.
Right.
Commits on GitHub. There's hardly any managerial oversight once you find just people who are trying to punch at a global talent, even though they're here, for sure.
And I'll just wrap it up as this. A players like to play with A players. Right? They like to play with the best of the best. And if you think like one, you want to be an A player, you always kind of punch above your weight class. Always as a local. But again, I wish we had more time, but thank you very much. Amazing episode, Nico and Walter. But before I let you go, again, we're talking about getting people invested. A lot of the listeners of Hustleshare are into fintech. So how do people find you guys out, and how will you guys how if they want to try out Invesko, where do they go and how do they do that?
Yeah, find us on getinvesco.com. Easy for you to just download the app that you need, iOS or Android. We're super active on Instagram, pushing content there. And as Walter mentioned, we now have a community on Discord where super users can talk to each other. We get to talk to people as well. We're pretty easy to find.
All right. Sounds good. Now, again, thanks you very much, guys. But before I let you go, follow us on whatever podcast app you're listening to, whether Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. And if we did say some jargon, it's going to be the show notes on hustleshare.com. And if also you want to support Hustleshare and doing content like this, please do subscribe at premium.hustleshare.com. Again, Walter and Miko, thank you very much. All right. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.
Peace.